when you don't understand your shadow self, you end up repeating the same patterns and accidentally sabotaging yourself. With your shadow self, firstly, you can't get rid of it. It's going to be around, might as well make friends with it because it's not going to go away. You have to accept it. So one, acknowledge that they exist, and not just for you, but for basically everyone in the world. Two, you have to accept yours. This is who you are. You are angry, you clam up, you basically disappear, whatever it is, you claim it. G'day, Shane. How you going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad. We just had a talk. It's that time of the year with end of school, end of work,
crazy
kids,
time.
and just trying to wrap things up. So apart from that, it's been okay. It's a nice level of hectic. So it's doing okay. All right, today I thought we would chat about something that I've been covering in a course that I'm putting together, which I knew a little bit about, not too much about, and the more that I wrote about it and I have spoken to people doing my course about it, the more I realized I need to do a bit more of a deep dive and get into it. And the concept is called the shadow self. It's also been called the shadow profile, and some other words and terms as well. But I've only ever known of it as the shadow self. And I'm actually cheating here. I've got my notes from my course. So my definition of it is, actually, you know what I'll do? I'll actually pause. I'll actually take it a step back and introduce it how I would as part of the session for my course.
Okay.
Now, my course has a video game element to it. And so I like to explain things in that way to make it easier for people to understand, and also easier for me to explain. And the way that I describe a shadow self is similar to when a person plays a video game for the first time. Now, a lot of the more modern video games, there is an element of creating your own player in this video game. Sure, there are video games there that you just pick up and start playing, and that's fine. But there are some video games, the more comprehensive ones, where you would actually create yourself as a video game character. And then as you play the game, you kind of control you in the video game. So when you do that, there are two different types of people that create their own video game character. The first type are the ones that will create a video game character that's much like themselves. So it looks similar, they sound similar, height, skills, all of that sort of stuff. It's almost like a perfect replica of themselves in this video game environment. You know, they match things like the skin tone and the eyes and the hair and all of this sort of stuff. It's the first type of people. Now, the second type of people, they do the opposite. They start off kind of creating a video game character looking like themselves. And they'll go, you know what? I kind of wish I was over 6 foot. So I'll do that. And they'll do that. And they'll go, you know, I wish I had more muscles. Okay, I'll do that. I wish I was a little bit more, say, alpha male. So they'll give attributes based around that. And, you know, I really need more money. So at the end of it, they've created this video game character of themselves, but it's actually the way that they want to be, not actually the way that they are now. And I kind of liken that to basically your shadow self. It's the way that you wish you were, you know, the way that you were to carry yourself in the world with more confidence and more authority, more strength and more courage. That's kind of what your shadow self is. So if you combine those two types of people together, the type that create the video game character realistically and the type that create it based off what they want to be, bundle them all up, you get basically you. You get you and you get me, and you basically get the entire human race. Yeah, because the first type of people, that's how we present ourselves to the world. This is how we are. This is how we look. This is how we act. We kind of hide some of those shadow values. The second type of person, or the second type of group, is how we really wish we were. You know, a bit more outgoing, a bit more confident, you know, able to stick up for yourself. So if I was to go back to my cheat notes over here, I've got it as the sentence. So your shadow self is basically the unfiltered version of you. It's the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that operate behind the scenes, not because they're wrong, but because they got pushed into the background as you grew up. So that's pretty much the definition of, or at least my definition of what your shadow self is. And the reason why it's brought up in the course is it's because once you identify it and once you know a little bit more about it, you can then work on it. You can accept what it is. You know, you can never fully get rid of your shadow self because it is essentially you. But if you can understand why you automatically make certain decisions, why you react in a particular way, you're then able to create alternatives for that automatic action. You know, because if you aren't aware of some of these shadow behaviors, you then just repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Why don't I finish this project? Why do I get to the end of this and not launch? Like what's stopping me? If you don't actually look inner and figure out why, that's the shadow self just keeping you back and keeping you safe.
Shadow self is a very, very interesting topic. And I think, looking back, this is really what all of us do. There's a side of us that we want to present to the world. And that's really the ideal self, you know, where even if we're not 100% up to scratch the way we want to present ourselves, we still try and put our best foot forward. And many times we will hold back certain things. And they kind of, for me, the way that I understand the shadow self is those bits that kind of digress and we push them back into the corner, you know, that what we call the ugly side, maybe, you know, the side that we don't want the rest of the world to see, but it does seem to come out in those times where we're poked and prodded, you know, where perhaps something has built up to a point within where you can't kind of hold that side back anymore, and you kind of look at yourself and go, oh, that was pretty horrible. I don't want that to come out again. And like you said, you know, when you start to examine these things, that's where they kind of disperse in a way, but they become a more truer sense of who you are. It's kind of like accepting that darker side, or the side that you don't like to show. When you start to accept those, they start to kind of normalize into the rest of your kind of life, you know, rather than kind of hiding one part of yourself and only showing your best part. And I think I've seen it in a lot of people that are very comfortable with themselves, and they may look very ugly to the world sometimes, but they're very comfortable in their own skin. You know what I mean? And they don't live with the regret so much. And so they don't seem to have as much light and dark, you know. But the way I kind of understand the shadow self, I guess, if we think about Spider-Man, and there was a movie where there was that darker version of Spider-Man.
Yes. I remember that. Yeah.
And it's kind of like well, to the extreme, it's kind of like that evil side that was kind of manifested, I guess, you know. And so I haven't done a lot of shadow work, but from my basic understanding, it's really shedding a light on those things that you don't want to look at, you know, and don't accept.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. And that's something that I touch upon in the course I'm putting together. Like the shadow work, it can be huge. And I go into it a little bit, but it's something that requires a lot of analysis, a lot of looking in, because it's something that, because we've grown up with it, we don't actually think of it as anything other than ourself. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a part of your body, right? Your hand or your foot that, you know, if you've got them, you just take them for granted. It's just you.
Yeah.
You don't naturally think about it unless obviously there's something wrong with, you know, one of your limbs. And so when you are forced to look inner and to find out why you react to certain situations, or to to even going on social media and looking at certain things like, why are you jealous, or why are you angry, or why are you sad? It's a difficult thing to do if you've not done it before, or even if you have, it's a difficult thing to recognize, because it's you. You know what I mean? It's live it. And in some cases, it's almost easier to ask somebody and say, hey, what do you know about me in terms of how I react to this? And sometimes some of your closest friends will go, well, yeah, every time I show you this, you change the subject. Or if I, if we need to sit down and have a serious conversation, you don't want to do it. Like, what are you hiding? Yeah. So I just want to read a couple more slides that I've got about the shadow self, because I think it's helpful for people to understand. So where does it come from? Basically, pretty much with everything in life these days, it's growing up, right? Yeah. So we learned. So growing up, we learned which emotions are welcomed and which ones get shut down. So things like crying and asking for help and getting angry, wanting attention or making mistakes, often get pushed aside to keep the peace. So, when you're a kid growing up and you're crying, your parents might tell you to be quiet, or they're frustrated, or you keep asking for things, or you want to do something and you keep getting shut down. All of those are a part of creating your shadow self. And it's like, well, if I keep on crying and I get yelled at, then maybe I'll just stop crying. If I keep asking for help and they get angry at me or they don't help, I'm going to stop asking for help. And just something as simple as that. Growing up from childhood all the way up to adulthood now, you might find you'll have people that never ask for help, just because, during, when they were a kid, they were asking for help all the time and no one would help them. So now they're an adult, they don't ask for help. That's just how it is, unfortunately. Yeah. So that was where it comes from what I believe anyway, and what I've read. And so how does your shadow self show up? So basically, your shadow shows up in your automatic reactions. So it could be like getting defensive at something. Hey, I don't like that t-shirt. Hey, I don't like your shoes. Hey, your haircut looks funny. Something along those lines, and you get defensive. That's part of your shadow. It could be shutting down, where I need to ask you a serious question about something and you don't want to. So you just entirely shut down. It could be a group thing. It could be something individual, but you just clam up, don't want to answer. Avoiding conflict, perfect one. You get sent an email that's important, but that the contents of that email isn't going to be particularly nice to read. So it just sits there on unread. That's a shadow. I do that all the time. There's also things like people pleasing, which is quite common for many people. Feeling jealous, especially now with social media. Give you 2 minutes on Instagram or TikTok, and then you'll come up to somebody that has something that you want. And it's like, why is this guy getting this? That's your shadow coming out. And all of this sort of stuff is just what your shadow is and how it shows up. And that's why I'm saying it's such a difficult thing to try and comprehend, because it governs so many of these automatic reactions that you get. Why don't you like watching the Kardashians on TV? Or why don't you like, why do you like cars over bikes? Just all of these things that you don't realize are actually part of your shadow. So that's how it shows up. These reactions aren't random. They're little cues pointing back to hidden fears or beliefs you haven't explored yet.
Yeah. It seems that from what you were saying, that the shadows, or the shadow side itself, seems to be connected largely to our wounds. Things that we don't want to look at because they're painful. And even on the surface, if it doesn't look like that, like you said, it's kind of like an avoidance game, and whatever that thing is, if you're not watching the Kardashians, don't watch the Kardashians. So I'm not sure what that is connected to, but
Sure,
but it really, but it really seems like when you drill down to the surface, below the surface, that it could be connected to some sort of wound or some kind of experience that you went through that was never really dealt with, and so never matured. I know for myself that happened a lot in my early kind of maybe in my 20s, and when I was brought up, there was quite a lot of violence and things like that, and I didn't really know it at the time, or I felt it at the time. Didn't really think about it. But looking back, I had to do a lot of work around that, where people would start arguing, and I'd get these knots in my stomach, and feel really ill because I always felt like, from the argument, it turned out to be something kind of violent, and so that was a real thing that I tried to avoid, and being around people like that as well, whereas some people, it's kind of commonplace. Some people are quite okay with violence and arguments and things like that, and it's probably pushed me towards being a more peaceful kind of passive kind of person, and but certainly that was like a large part of things that were going on for me in my kind of mid-20s, and so to work through that, I guess you would call it shadow work in a way, because if you're you're going through that but you avoid it, that's kind of, like I said, kind of burying that ugly part of your past or how you feel.
Yeah, you mentioned shadow work, and here's here's another slide. So the slide is titled "Why Does the Shadow Self Matter?" And one of the points are, when you don't understand your shadow self, you end up repeating the same patterns and accidentally sabotaging yourself. And that's quite true for people that have perfectionism. They want things to be perfect, and they never get there. They, if it's to create a course or to build something, they just sometimes don't even start, because it's, the thought of it not being exactly how they want is kind of overwhelming. So it is important to understand them, because otherwise you could always be angry at somebody, or angry at people, angry at life. You could be jealous. You could be fearful. And it's not until you actually go in and do that shadow work, like firstly, acknowledge it, and then secondly, do something about it. Acknowledge it and go, okay, so this is why I react. It's because of either this thing that happened as a child, or as a kid, or as a youth. This is what happened. How can I deal with that? Now, you can never get rid of them, but there are ways in which you can change your automatic reaction to them. And it could simply be as easy as just pausing, as just stopping and thinking about it, either diffusing the situation, walking away, making, excusing yourself from whatever could potentially happen. But it is important to, one, acknowledge that everyone's got them. Two, ones that are very specific to you, that you say, yep, that's part of my shadow self. And three, what can I do about that? Like, how can I deal with this automatic switch of me looking at Instagram and saying, hey, this guy's got a really nice car and he's half my age. Like, how dare he do that? Like, what's that in me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the other part of the slide of why the shadow self matters is, once you get to know it, you can respond on purpose instead of reacting without thinking, which is basically what the shadow self does. Like, our shadow behaviors, they just react, and we don't think, because that's how we've grown up, essentially. It's it's almost a form of generational trauma, as they say, right? Because if you look down the line, families of drinkers and families that have violence in them, it's because they copy, and that's kind of how things work. So the other, oh wait, here it is here. I've got a slide. It's called the skinny. Do you know what the skinny means? If I said to you, here's the skinny on something. Oh, that's hilarious.
Never heard of it.
See, that's another thing I have to change on the course now. The skinny, what about the 411? You know what the 411 means?
No.
Okay. It's like, okay, here's the deal. This is the
that
deal on
age thing.
Maybe
Generation thing. I don't know.
Could be a hip hop listening thing. So basically, the skinny of the shadow self is, your shadow self isn't your true identity. It's just the unprocessed pieces of your past trying to keep you safe. Understanding these pieces gives you more calm, more clarity, and more freedom from the patterns that have been holding you back. That's pretty much essentially it. I have and I do have some steps that are very basic in terms of what you can do. And these are just pointers. So with your shadow self, firstly, you can't get rid of it. It's going to be around. Might as well make friends with it because it's not going to go away. You have to accept it. So one, acknowledge that they exist, and not just for you, but for basically everyone in the world. Two, you have to accept yours. Like this is who you are. You are angry. You clam up. You basically disappear. Whatever it is, you claim it. So there's that saying. What is it? If you name it, you claim it, kind of thing. Like just accept that what it is. You claim it. That is actually you. You need to work on it. Instead of flying off the deep end because your kids have said, "Hey, I'm going to be late, to work, and you take me now," sort of thing. Instead of flying off and going, "Why don't you just pause?" That's a difficult thing to do because you're basically trying to insert something that is so ingrained in your life that you're going to miss most of them. Because life's reactionary, right? You just do things because someone told you to do things. Like an email pops up, your phone comes along, and all of these different things. And so to insert something that's going to disrupt the natural flow of life is extremely difficult. So out of the 10 automatic times when your shadow self has reacted, you'll probably be lucky to catch one initially. But you'll start to get there. And the last thing you can do with your shadow self is basically supercharge. And I'll go through a couple of those points later on. Time pending, obviously. So, do you have anything else to say about shadow self before I introduce an interesting topic that you might not know about, but it's very closely related to shadow self?
No, I'm interested to find out more, actually. Cool. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Have you heard? Actually, you might have heard this. Have you heard of the term secondary gain?
Yes, absolutely.
You have? Oh, see? That's not fun.
All right, I'll pretend I don't know.
Okay. So secondary gain as it pertains to the shadow self. So secondary gain is the hidden benefit you get from a shadow self behavior, even if the behavior itself is causing problems. So an easy way to think about this is to attach secondary gain to a bad habit, because that's an easy way to identify what a secondary gain is. So if your bad habit is smoking, your secondary gain for that is that instant calm feeling, is that kind of break time smoko, and socializing and connection. That's secondary gain from smoking. If you're talking about drinking, secondary gain from drinking is you get to escape reality. You loosen up, you feel a bit more relaxed. And there is a word that doesn't make any sense because I think I wrote it wrong. That's two things. And the last one. So an example of bad habit, drug use. Secondary gain from drug use is instant belonging. If there's a group and you're all taking drugs, instant belonging, right? There's obviously increased energy on the type of drug that it is, or on the flip side of that, it could be drowning out the noise.
Yep.
So that's basically secondary gain in a nutshell. And as it pertains to the shadow self, we can do that with behaviors as well. Mm-hmm. So if part of your shadow self is procrastination, the secondary gain from procrastination is you avoid the fear of failing because you're not doing it, yep. Or you avoid or there's fear of failing or being judged because if you don't do something, no one's going to judge you for not doing it. Yep. There's a behavior of playing small or downplaying your abilities. The secondary gain for that is you avoid pressure. So if you're not, if you play within your limits, but know you can do a lot more, then people's expectations of you are kept at that level. They're not pressuring you to keep on striving. There's a secondary gain from that. Expectations as well. If you play small, then people aren't expecting big things because you're just playing at this level that you're comfortable at, even though your potential could be 10x, 100x.
Yeah.
And lastly, you stay busy all the time. That's a shadow behavior. Yeah. But the secondary gain from that is you don't have to sit with the uncomfortable emotions or do the things that you're avoiding. If there's an email that I need to write that's uncomfortable, if I have to call somebody back because I messed up, oh, look, the house is really dirty. I'm going to clean that first, or I'll wash the car, or I'll do the washing. Oh, wait, I've got to do this other thing first before I call that person back. That's the busyness,
Yes.
but that's the secondary gain that I get in doing that because I don't want to, I don't want to be in conflict. So what's your definition of secondary gain and some examples?
Yeah, all of those. And it really seems like, when you're talking about the shadow and also secondary gain, it really seems like these two things work towards taking away your freedom, of who you've got the potential to be, and the things that you can definitely claim. But all these little niggly things, and they're all things to do within your mind, are holding you back from just taking that next step. This happens to me on the daily. I've got to make a lot of cold calls and things like that, and exactly what you said. You play that avoidance game. There's 100 other things I need to do as well that aren't going to get in front of that, but aren't as important as getting that done. So I think a lot of people don't think of the secondary gain, because then they've got to think about what they really should be doing, with quotation marks on should, but they know that's really what they want to be doing to be able to kind of get over that hurdle. But let me do this thing first instead. Secondary gain. I'll give you a sales example. When I was in sales many years ago, probably back it up from there. When I was young, I used to always get told I was very shy and quiet and all of that sort of thing. And I think I did whatever I could to kind of dispel that for myself. And so what do? You get into sales, because you've got to knock on doors and introduce yourself and make yourself very uncomfortable. So I did that for, I don't know, about 10, 15 years in different kind of industries. So I think for myself, I was able to kind of push past that, even though every day I was nervous to do it. But, it got easier as you did it every time. But I think always at the back of my mind, it was this thing of someone's going to, it was weird, but it was like someone was going to, violent or verbally abuse me or something like that, which is ridiculous. But like I said, it goes back to that past, getting past that matured kind of thing that I was stuck at, the idea there. So there are many ways to kind of do that easier these days, rather than just push yourself into something. But that's one way of doing it. And but it got to the point too that I really didn't enjoy the sale, and I would avoid it and start doing other things. Oh, I've got to do this report and get these things done first before I make those calls. So it does sneak in if you let it. If you find other things to kind of allow you to avoid it, you can do that easily. And yeah, like you said, that's the secondary gain. And the funny thing is when you have that secondary gain too, you actually feel kind of euphoric, like you've done something, useful. And but it's kind of just fooling yourself,
Yeah, it's been said that that's why a lot of the shadow work doesn't work, is for that secondary gain. And the idea is to really dig in there, have a look at the shadow self, and really see if there's a secondary gain behind it. Because there is, there are ways in which, you can achieve a lot of those secondary gains through other methods.
Yeah.
Especially with the bad habits. If your goal is to quit a particular bad habit, you got to look at the secondary gain and focus on that, not so much on the actual bad habit first.
Yeah.
Because if you can address the secondary gain, i.e. from smoking, if it's going to be something that's relaxing, or if it's something to do with a social aspect, if you address those and then attack the bad habit, then what's the bad habit there for? It's feeding those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So I did talk about supercharging your shadow self, and we probably don't have time for it now, but I'm going to run through a couple of scenarios with you, and you tell me which resonates the most with you. Mm-hmm. So this is the result of a 20-question quiz. I'm just going to give you the different shadow types, and you just tell me which one aligns with you the most, and I'll read out the ways in which you can actually supercharge it. Okay, so the first shadow type is called the perfectionist shadow. Their core fear is not being good enough unless you perform. The patterns of this person are overworking, self-criticism, and burnout, and their hidden desire is to feel valued without conditions. It's the first shadow type. Second shadow type is the invisible shadow. Now, their core fear is being unseen or unimportant. Their patterns are withdrawing and shutting down. And their hidden desire is to feel acknowledged and emotionally safe. All good so far? There's only 6 of these.
Yeah.
The third type is the fixer shadow. Their core fear is losing control or being abandoned. And their patterns, overhelping, people-pleasing. Their hidden desire is acceptance without needing to earn it. Fourth type, the comparer shadow. Their core fear, not measuring up. Their patterns are judging, insecurity, and sensitivity to criticism. Their hidden desire is to feel enough as they are, or as you are in this case.
Yeah.
The fifth one is the avoider shadow. Now, their core fear is failing or disappointing others. Their patterns are procrastination and running from discomfort. And their hidden desire is confidence and safety to take risks.
Okay.
And lastly is the hider shadow. Their core fear is being exposed or vulnerable. Their patterns are pulling away and emotional distance. And their hidden desire is to be seen and accepted without fear.
Wow. Okay. Is there a seventh one that says all of them?
Yeah, I know, right? I was the same when I was going through this. Like, wait, I can see myself in all of these. I'll take that.
I suppose the idea is to kind of pick the one that's kind of the highest degree or highest percentage. It's probably more the perfectionist and maybe the fifth one.
1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth one was the avoider. Failing.
Yeah, so it's probably more perfectionist and then secondary the avoider.
That's okay.
I think.
Okay, perfectionist shadow. Core fear is not being good enough unless you perform. Patterns are overworking, self-criticism, and burnout. And the hidden desire is to feel valued without conditions. Okay, let's have a look at that. So, as it pertains to the supercharged slide, so the shadow self behavior is chasing perfect and feeling never good enough. Examples of this behavior are overworking to avoid mistakes, feeling anxious when things aren't done right, being overly self-critical or hard on yourself, and procrastinating because you fear doing it imperfectly. How does that sound?
Pretty much.
Okay, cool.
Especially now, around this time of year. Yeah.
Okay, so how to turn this into a superpower? Perfectionism usually means you have high standards, strong focus, and a genuine desire to do things well. When you learn to let progress matter more than perfection, this shadow becomes mastery, excellence, and consistent growth. And you do this by setting good enough for now milestones. You know, instead of having this course that has to have everything perfect, there's got to be like, all right, once I hit this point, done. It's good enough.
Yeah.
You also set this by allowing imperfect first drafts to exist. You also do this by celebrating small wins to build momentum. So not the big bang stuff, the stuff in between. And you can also do this by viewing mistakes as feedback, not failure. So this transforms perfectionism into the superpower of precision, mastery, and excellence without burnout. How does that sound?
Beautiful.
Yeah?
I'll take that advice on. Yeah. I should have done that when I was doing my art business. Something that took me an hour took me 5 hours because I was stuck in the detail.
I tell you,
for the other 4 hours.
I'm the same. You know, and it's funny too. Like the more you learn about this stuff, the more you know you should do something. It's almost like, what's that saying? Like a plumber's pipes are always leaking. That kind of thing, where you know what to do, especially when it comes to yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like, I should be thinking this way or doing that, and I know it. I can recognize it. But then the other part of your shadow self is like, let's just do something else.
And it's the crazy thing is, you'd give that advice to someone
else,
but you don't take it on yourself.
I know. It's that's probably the one thing that that surprised me a lot, is that I know what to do in most cases, and I'm not saying that as a boast or anything, but I know enough about myself to know that I should be doing this or I should stop doing that.
Yep.
And more often than not, it's like, nah. But if someone tells me to do it, I better do it.
But see, that comes from self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
You've done a lot of work on that, and so have I, And I think, that's the core of the message, is really to have that self-awareness too, because you won't know about your shadow unless you say yes to that self-awareness.
Yeah. Well, that's the start. That's pretty much it. That's awareness and self-awareness is probably the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because once you have that, or once you are aware of that, aware of awareness, it's such a weird thing. But once you're aware of that, then everything becomes a little bit more clear. Is probably a good word. It's funny because the coaching session this morning was similar in that we were talking about the Baader-Meinhof effect. Like they call it the Baader-Meinhof effect, or the yellow car effect, or the red car effect, or something along those lines. Yeah, whatever car it is. Yeah, like the more you think about something, the more that you're aware of it.
Yeah.
And so having more awareness of awareness, as strange as it sounds, does actually help. But it's something, at least for me anyway, there are some people that you can say to them, hey, next time this happens, just do this. And they get it. But me, I have to almost be constantly on it. I've actually got a reminder. The app's called Yap. Like, I can't remember what it stood for, but they're called, that they market themselves as like gentle reminders.
Okay.
And I can pick a time period, and I think it's like maybe 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. And I can tell it to send me reminders up until like 9 times, and it just does it randomly. Like I don't, it's not hourly, it's not it's just randomly, but it's just to remind me of certain things. Like, but my reminders are so short. It'll just say like pause or check in, or it'll be something that will trigger me and just say, hey, like life's crazy. Like life's always been crazy for me. So there's always a lot of things going on. And I just kind of need that reminder to just say, hey, like, are you good? And even that I can ignore, So even though you're right, like I have a lot of self-awareness of awareness of self, but of the times when I need to do something as a result of that awareness, I'm not feeling good. I like, what's wrong with me internally? Why am I thinking this way? That takes a bit of work for me, because it's all part of life. It's all just this blur. Like, I love the blur. I think it's fun, but it's just, I need to step back and go, all right, this is my shadow talking. If I was to do this differently, instead of flying off that handle, I do this instead, then I could probably stop repeating that same result that I get.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. So, so where do we go from here? The shadow work.
Shadow work.
Is it something we can do ourselves? Or is it really something
it is.
that
it is.
needs to be guided?
I think in terms of the steps, because everything has to start with the letter, right, to make it easy to remember. So this is temporarily called the Shadow Self Mastery Pursuit. Sounds very wordy. I think I'm going to change it. And it consists of 6 steps, all starting with S. So the first is surrender. And that's start by surrendering to the idea that you have a shadow self. This is about accepting that everyone has hidden parts, and it's normal and it's okay. I find that easy. I find that others might not find it easy because they might just say, "No, that's not me." It's like, no, it's you. Like that's just how it is. So surrender is the most important, and it's one of those things that if you do it once, it might be okay. It might set you up for the rest of it. But as long as you can accept you are who you are and you're just playing the hand that you're dealt, that's fine. That's the first step. The second step, which is difficult, is to spot. So spot your shadows by noticing the patterns, reactions, or triggers that reveal those hidden parts of yourself. Now, it's always going to be, not always, but in most cases, it's always going to be an after the fact spot. You flew off at your friend because he did something that's always bothered you, or you called the client up and you yelled at them, or someone sent you an email and you haven't replied for 3 weeks because it's about some bad stuff. It's about spotting those shadow behaviors, and that's difficult. That's going to take time. I think, like I said before, out of every 10, it could even be more, out of 10, 20 times you've automatically reacted to something, you might catch it once and go, oh yeah, I shouldn't have yelled at that person, or I should have done this instead. So that's the second step, is to spot it. The third step is surface. So surface the stories behind those shadows. The step is about bringing those hidden beliefs or narratives into the light so you can see them clearly. So 1, accept the fact that we've all got them. We've all got a shadow self. 2, just spot the next time something like that happens. And 3, name it. Is it a jealousy thing? Is it an anger management thing? Is it a you're not enough thing?
Yeah.
There's that if you name it, you claim it kind of thing. Once you bring it to the surface, it's easier to deal with. It's easier to say, okay, fine. So I get jealous of other people for this reason. So that's the third step. Fourth is to search. Let's search for secondary gain. There might be in it somewhere. It's not going to be there for everything, but search for it. Understand what hidden benefit or comfort your shadow self might be providing you, even if it's not obvious. So things like what we mentioned before. So being, if you procrastinate, it's because you're avoiding something that you don't want to do. So there is some secondary gain behind it, and the sooner that you can outline it, the better it will be. So 5, or the 5th, is to steer your feelings about the shadows. This means consciously guiding how you relate to them instead of letting them run the show. So we've accepted the fact that everyone's got them. We're now spotting these shadow self behaviors. We're now bringing them to light and going, okay, this is what I've got. Is there any secondary gain for some of these behaviors? Cool. The 5th is to steer. So now, instead of trying to let the shadow self automatically make you react to a situation, pause. Try, think of other ways in which you can react to the same kind of feelings. Now, that's going to be difficult, but that's really the only way that you can stop yourself from repeating those patterns over and over and over again. It's just like that. It's like in high school. I don't know if you ever did this, but, there's always a friend that if you said something to him, like he would always react in a particular way. Yeah. And you'd play off that. So what that friend is doing, the one that you're trying to piss off, is they're in that same loop, right? They're in that's that shadow self, and you're triggering it. Now, at some point, if you try and do it after some time, a couple of years, you try and trigger that same emotion, and he doesn't bite, then he's done some shadow work. The back end, it doesn't affect him anymore, and that's kind of what we're trying to do is steering. It's like, okay, that used to sting me in the past, but I've come to live with it now. It's fine. It doesn't make me angry. Come at me, do it again. So that's steer. And the last step is to supercharge, basically what we said before. So recognize what those behaviors are and put in steps to not only just react to them in a different way, but steps to actively improve upon them. We're talking about perfectionism. So reward yourself for smaller milestones. Start thinking of a mindset of this is good enough for now. First drafts are there. Nothing's a failure. It's just learning. That sort of mindset stuff. And that's how you can supercharge that so that it was once your I wouldn't even call it a fault, but it was once your shadow self, you're now supercharging it to something that you can now use to get the results that you want.
Great.
Cool.
Love it. Yeah, that's a wealth of information there, and it really. While you were talking, I thought, isn't it funny how we take life so seriously? And the funny thing is, if it comes down to not taking all of that so seriously, that if you can accept those things, the shadow side. Oh yeah, these are things that happen. Oh well. And with my perfectionism, I didn't take myself so seriously. Things would be a lot easier.
Yeah. And the thing is like the more you think into it, and I get crazy for this sometimes because I'm like you. Like I value fun in almost anything that I do. If there's a certain element of fun in it, I'm like, yeah, I'm for it. And I'm thinking, is that a shadow value? Like, does turning everything fun? Is there a secondary gain that means that I don't have to be serious? Like maybe I don't know. Maybe there is. I don't know. Like the more that I learn about this, the more it's super interesting to me.
Are you trying to avoid being serious?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
I think I am. I'm absolutely avoiding being serious. So, and see, now that I think about it, I think you're right. It's funny because I'm at the same time as you saying that, I'm actually processing it in my head. And there was a discussion I had with somebody years ago, and it was on coaching, and I said that I kind of don't. Everybody says that they don't want to be like the rest of the coaches or the rest of the whoever it is, whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah.
And I want to instill it with a bit more fun. So I think you're exactly right with what you said. Like, I don't want it to be serious. I understand because coaching, for the most part, coaching is and should be serious in a way, depending on what the subject matter is.
Yeah.
But I like my default setting to be on more fun than more serious.
Yeah.
Which is like my coaching course is based off a video game because it's fun. It's fun for me. Hopefully it's fun for the people that are doing it. I just don't want to be, all melodramatic and it's like, this is like this transformational coaching program. And like, I'm hoping it has that effect, but I don't want to call it that because it sounds too serious and it's not fun for me. So
absolutely.
It could be.
Yeah.
How are we doing for time? Do we have to shut this shop up or are we?
Yes. Unfortunately I've got to fly off.
Okay. Well, that's good. Hopefully, we'll apologize again for making this so long between waits, but time of the year and everything else.
We'll do what we can.
Okay, good. All right, Shane, where can people reach out to you?
At awaken.guide, please.
Awesome. And for me, it's dex.thedecafnetwork.com. Good to see you again, Shane.
You too, buddy.
I will chat to you on the next one. See you, man.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.